Welcome to UCF Knightline, your source for UCF sports and former player information.
Hello, Night Nation. This is Andrew Phegley coming to you from the 1148 studios, and this is episode 96 of Knightline.
I'm Trylko. Jason the Intern is here. Hello, everyone. Hey, Andrew. How you doing?
I want you to get up now. I want all of you to get up out of your chairs. I want you to get up right now and go to the window, open it, and stick your head out and yell, "I'm as mad as hell, and I'm not going to take this anymore!"
You know, that's probably the easiest way that I could say the way I feel.
From the movie Network. Great movie.
Yeah, he just says it so well that's just, it's pretty much explains.
What are you angry about?
Well, we got a couple things. Straight off the bat, I need to talk about Victor Beach.
Before you do that, we've got Juan Toribio of 24/7 Sports is going to join us.
Are you afraid that people are going to turn this off?
No, well, I want them to know that our countdown to signing day coverage continues. We've got Juan from 24/7 Sports. He's going to break down the Knights class just a couple of days from signing day, reminding everybody we're going to be live for 2 hours taking your phone calls.
You're afraid everybody's just going to turn this off right now.
No, I want them to also know that Isaac Lang will be here to break down the Knights on a 3-game losing streak in men's basketball.
All right.
Mind you, Jason, that I wrote into the rundown. You can see it in two places. Andrew rants. I wrote it in.
Well, it's not going to be in two places. It's going to be right now.
All right. Have a seat. Lean back in your chair.
Have a seat, people. Open up the window like the man said.
There is more to the show than Andrew ranting.
There is. Yes.
This makes it.
There is. This is one of the things that we need to get off. I need to get a couple things off of my chest here. All right. Number one, since we're 2 minutes into this thing and I still haven't said, since I was so rudely interrupted. Anyway. Number one, as far as Victor Beach goes, you know, he's a 17-year-old kid, and he obviously enjoyed being on our show and obviously enjoyed playing the games of recruiting that were played. I'm not sure exactly what happened. Somebody said that there were things that were said to him. He said that to me. There was something that a UCF coach said to him that made him upset. But then again, this was after he took the visit to Purdue that he did not tell UCF about. So, I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if they told him something that he didn't want to hear. I mean, I'm sure that they were pretty stern in telling them, we don't want anything to do with you anymore because you lied to us. We told you not to go on any more visits, and you did behind our back. You said earlier when we were talking, if he's going to lie about that, what else is he going to lie about?
Yeah, I stand by the coaches. We don't know all that happened. But to quote the message board poster, I blame you.
Actually, it was him.
I like the person who also, tongue-in-cheek, blamed Jason the Intern.
Yeah.
No, I like how people blamed you for him flipping.
Jason set that interview up, by the way. No,
oh, yeah, totally. It was all...
No, but
it was the intern's fault.
But it's interesting that he was all in when you talked to him a couple of days ago.
And that's why I talked to him.
The interview.
But here's the other deal. That's another thing that we need to talk about with that. I broke my own rules a couple times this year already. And my rule before talking to Mackenzie Milton last year was that I was not going to talk to any recruits until after they signed. Between the time they signed and the time that they arrive on campus is my window that I normally use to talk to people. I talked to Daryl Mack this year, and I talked to Otis Anderson this year, and then Victor Beach. I am no longer going to do that. Victor Beach has ruined it for everybody. I just want to say that because I'm not going to have kids come on here and say one thing and then do another. I'm just not. So I will talk to UCF recruits after signing day.
You rolled the dice.
I was trying
got burned a little bit.
Yeah.
And you move on.
I'm not horribly upset about it. I'm just, that's my own fault for doing that. I'm not going to do it anymore. I broke my rule, and Trace actually questioned me about that before, and you were right. So,
well, high risk, high reward. It's great to have the guys on, but if they flipped on us, they flipped on UCF at the same time.
I don't want that on my show. I don't want it just being a sounding board and then somebody saying something. So this is a UCF show. It's about UCF.
It's not about Purdue.
It's definitely not about Purdue. So anyway, that's part number 1 of my rant.
That's not bad.
Part 2 of my rant. The season ticket prices being raised during this, what is it? We rise and conquer.
Initiative.
Well, we rise as far as the tickets have risen so high that there's some people that definitely cannot be. Yeah, not. Trace is showing me the
glossy
pamphlet
brochure.
Yeah, and it says everybody needs to be involved to make this one big family.
Head coach Scott Frost.
Well, I'm not going to be involved anymore. I can't afford my tickets anymore. I can't. I make $17 an hour, and I cannot afford the $1,000 basically that my tickets rose in my section, where we've sat for. I've only been going for 5 years. For the 5 years before that, those tickets have been within the people that I sit with. So 10 years, and they're not going to renew the tickets because they don't want to move. They don't want to pay the extra money. We can't afford our parking pass. If we did afford the tickets, we would lose the parking passes that we have, that we've worked really hard with points, negotiating with the ticket agent and everything else to get. It's ridiculous. We're priced out. And I think that that's a little crazy. This isn't like new for you, Trace, at all, because, and we haven't talked about it that much on the show, but you were where the Cabana is now, and they didn't do anything for you to help you get a ticket that was even close to what you had before. You met with them on numerous occasions, and they wouldn't do anything to make you happy. And you actually had multiple season tickets in multiple different sports, gave a pretty big donation with those. So not only you, but now I have been, I think, like to keep it clean. So I'm going to say I feel like I've been kind of crapped on, with all of this. And I'm priced out. That's it. But it also solves a problem for me. And this is why I'm a little bit more okay with it than I was when I first realized how much it was going to be. So the problem that it solves for me is I love to do this show, and I want to do this show. And I love to do, probably more than anything, I love to do the post-game live show that we started last year for the away game. We've been talking about doing it for home games. Well, UCF, you just made it easier for me to do the home games. Because now I will watch the home games on TV, and I will be right here 30 minutes later. I believe is when we're going to start post-game live after the home games this year. And I'll be sitting right in this seat 30 minutes later with my Vonage phone system and everything that I've purchased to do that show. I was going to have to spend thousands of dollars to do the show mobily from the stadium, parking lot, or whatever. Now I don't have to do that. So the money that I would have spent on season tickets will be going into my show. And equipment to do this show and everything else. Excuse me, Trace, you'll have to say something because I need to cough.
Do you feel better? He's run out of air, Jason. He has run out of air.
Well, I'm sure people are rejoicing that I've run out of air, but I
don't think most of our fans care about my particular ticket situation. We have alluded to it with a couple of asides over the last 2 years. But I was where the Cabana is. I got moved out of those seats. Promises were made. Promises were not kept by folks that are currently there, folks that have moved on to greener pastures and other jobs. And, season tickets for baseball, basketball, football, season ticket holder for 15-plus years.
And how do you feel
and a pretty
now?
Significant
and how do you feel now that those Cabana tickets have gone half the price and double the size?
I'm not surprised because they weren't selling out. And I think, I read an article about a year ago in a business magazine, and it was talking about one of the greatest marketers is in our backyard, Walt Disney World.
Yeah.
And look to what Walt Disney World does if you want to understand the greater economy. And I don't mean to make this a political rant, but Disney used to be where that family of four from Des Moines would hop into the Winnebago or the station wagon and they would come down. And it is not that level of affordability anymore. And Disney no longer chases those folks, okay? They give you access early if you pay extra for it. All the premiums attached to your Walt Disney World experience, they're chasing where the money is. So I think this ticket plan, and Danny White has put together a big program. They want to increase their revenues as they've laid out in the brochure and the video and all of that. Ticket prices have gone up 6%. Expenses related to the student athletes have gone up 60%. They want to be this top 25 program. It requires money, but I think there's some admissions here. They are admitting that they have not been able to expand the tent. They don't bring in Greater Central Florida. If you're inside that bubble as a UCF alum or UCF fan or on East Orlando side of town, once you get out, UCF really does disappear for most people. And I drive all over Central Florida for work. And when I'm in Apopka and Claremont and whatever, what have you, it doesn't really exist for most people. They can't get those folks anymore. That they've raised single-game ticket prices, and I have a couple of friends in particular. They're not season ticket holders. They go if they like the opponent. A Maryland comes to town, they're kind of jazzed about that. But if it's a Maine, they're a little less jazzed. The feedback I've gotten from them is $25 was the ticket price, $45 is the new ticket price. Let me tell you something. Not having season tickets is not a barrier to getting into this stadium. Many times in the last 2 seasons, there have been 50-yard line seats in the West Side Club and all of that you could get outside the stadium for $10, $15, $20 max.
Absolutely.
Right?
So, yeah, I mean...
So they're trying to increase revenue off of their most loyal 15, 16, 17,000 people.
And I think that they've pissed some of them off.
They're going to move people around. There's been a waiting list for the premium seats, and they may yet generate more revenue, which I do support them doing, right? I want UCF to be a strong program, right? They may yet make more revenue, but with diminished numbers of people. Their renewal rate may be in that 80, 85, 90% for season tickets and boosters, but at what cost in the long run? And I think that's a problem that I quite honestly don't believe Danny White will be here long enough to realize.
Yeah, that's another
the long-term impact. There were some positives out of this. We found out that the 7 home games, there won't be one outsourced to Camping World Stadium.
That's good.
The Citrus Bowl, really so it'll be on campus. And they have a commitment to those 7 games. I think that's great. And they announced a lot of things like the on-field cabanas sold out, so they're opening up another set of them in the other end zone, that they've moved students like Jason to the other side. I think that's a tremendous competitive advantage if you can get all of the students to come off Memory Mall.
Here's the deal,
So
though.
there's some positives.
Here's the deal
in
with that. Go ahead, Jason.
From the student perspective, I actually did talk to a lot of my friends after that announcement was made, and ESPN wrote a story about the cabanas, so that got some national attention. But I don't know if you guys, when you guys are at the game, I don't know if you notice when students start to leave, but if the games do get boring in the third quarter, the student section is half empty. So I think
the student section 95% of the time is half empty anyway.
But then if the game gets
full,
it's never full.
So they made it bigger now. They made the student section
they
bigger.
moved it. They just moved it.
Yeah, they moved
around.
it from the side though. But still, they added the lower level section where it used to be. So they've made it bigger.
In the next season, there's going to be an awkward moment when the regular fans, the non-students, are going to be paying extra money for these tickets. And the students who are going for free, I'm not saying charge the students, but
well, they're not going for free. You pay an awful lot. You pay one of the highest student athletic fees in the country to support UCF.
But there's going to be an awkward moment where the fans who pay extra for the tickets, and they're going to start seeing the students leave, and they're going to go, why can't we sit behind one of the end zones? Because now it's on both sides, which I think is great when the students are there. But
well, the upper level of student section, the upper level is season tickets.
Yeah, I'm talking lower level as well.
I mean, look at some of the, they had the $1 million donation from the Garveys that's going to go towards the renovated UCF Football Recruiting Lounge, going to be renamed the Garvey Center for Student Athlete Nutrition. All told, a $2 million week for UCF athletics in terms of people stepping up.
Wouldn't it be nice to have, I can't even afford my season tickets now. Wouldn't it be nice to have $1 million laying around to give to your alma mater? That would be nice. I'd love that.
And
I would do it.
They've gotten those
if
people,
I had it, I would do it.
They've gotten those people off their wallets. But I think that if they listen to what you said earlier, I think there needs to be some recognition that there are people that they've priced out of the market. And
I cannot afford it. That's the reason. I can't afford it.
Well, their argument will be there are 45,000 seats, and you could find, this was the argument that they made to me. I understand that if they haven't adjusted prices, I have a couple of retail operations that fall under my direction with the nonprofit that I run, and you adjust prices. But I have to be competitive to my market, and I have to understand not only my competition, but my client base, my customer base can't charge outsized what they can afford. And I think that's maybe the mistake that UCF's making. Their argument was with me, and if you have opportunity to speak to the ticket rep or whatever, and their argument to me was you could find the same thing you were paying. But my argument to them was, well, yes, I could find that price point. And that was 6 season tickets. But it was a downgrade from the 50-yard line to the 25-yard line. So, yeah, I could find something. And if you look at this matrix, you will find a price point that matches, but not where you are.
I could sit. I mean, I'm in section 114 right now, about 7 rows up. I mean, you know, I'm already at the freaking goal line. You know, that's fine though. I loved the seats. Great vantage point, great people all around me. That's one of the things that I'm not willing to give up. I want to sit where I've been sitting with the same people around me, which I've talked to some of the people that sit around me that we're very good friends with. They're not coming either.
You've risen up, Andrew,
and
you've been conquered.
You know, and this is the other thing. There's people that will say, oh, well, you're not a UCF fan if you're not gonna, you know, pay, and why should we listen to you if you're not gonna pay and support the school? You know, I think we do quite a bit here, and I think I've paid quite a bit to do this show. Number one,
thousands of dollars. I've not made one penny doing this, people. So if you want to say that, that's perfectly fine. I think we're pretty devoted to spend the hours that we spend, Trace and I and Jason now, spend hours a week. It's like a second job to be able to do this show. And basically my job, my $17 an hour job that I go to 40 hours a week, is paying for this.
It's not that you're on a UCF fan because you can't afford the games. You just can't afford the games. You represent the common man who now probably won't be able to get the regular seat that they had before, like you just said. I think one of the bigger issues is, honestly, I was thinking about this some more. I think this puts a little bit more pressure on the team and Scott Frost to start winning games.
You're not kidding.
I mean, last season, obviously, we know they went 0-12, and now I talked 2 years ago, but last season they went 6-7. But maybe it's because they didn't wait long enough for the team to produce winning games more.
Well,
but even when they won, they've only had 6 sellouts in 10 seasons. So there wasn't exactly demand for 45,000 seats before.
And also, we paid a lot of money for our season tickets for last season, not this
previous,
but the 0-12. But the 0-12
You want
season.
You want a rebate?
Well, no, but I sat through that, and this is what I get in return.
Just a year later.
A year later.
I think they should have waited on that to increase the prices.
Priced out of my seats. And the whole dynamic changed of the stadium. I like some of the,
I like the student section. I like the movements.
It's cool with it on both ends a little bit.
Have you thought about Uber? Have you thought about driving for Uber?
I don't have time to drive for Uber.
Have you thought about donating plasma for a little extra spending?
I pass out. Anyway.
I had a friend, by the way, who donated plasma because he needed his part for the keg money.
Well,
had the party,
I mean,
but he was weak from the donation and then passed out at the party.
It's not that I don't support UCF people. Come on. That is not what's going on here, obviously. But I am unwilling to pay that amount of money for the seats that I have or any other seat in the stadium. And I just can't. I can't do it. So anyway,
I hope
so the
you
good
get
thing
your
out of
calls
that,
returned because I've stopped trying.
I got a message on
GKC doesn't
Twitter.
return my messages, and they don't want to have a conversation.
That's fine.
And
they don't want my money
I was
then.
in the top percentile of donors at the university, and that's not a big dollar. That's not a big dollar. I don't have a building named after me, but 15, 16 years of consecutive giving. And they got to do what's right for them, and there's supply and demand. And,
we're nobody. We're nobody, just like all the rest of the nobodies.
It's my alma mater, and I will never renounce UCF. I bleed black and gold, so I don't need to get into all this war with UCF about GKC and points and dollars. I went to all the home games. I went to Michigan. I went to FIU. I've been on a road trip for 20 consecutive seasons, and I'll be at Navy and or Maryland. So I'm never going to take it out on the players or the product or the team. I sat through every minute of 0-12.
It's not them. It's not them.
But there are different ways to go to games, and you're going to enjoy them in the comfort of the 1148 studios.
Well, here's the deal.
Take calls from
as
all
well,
over the country.
I can watch so much better. I mean, I can rewatch the game while I'm taking calls about the game and see if I see more stuff. You know, I mean, it's going to work out great for me. I mean, honestly, football is better on TV anyway. I mean, I think.
Which is an interesting thing as well that they fight
rewind.
against, because back to Jason's point, that if it gets boring, a blowout one way or another.
The thing that I'm going to miss, to be honest with you, is the tailgating and the camaraderie with the
so
people. So
your group needs to come here.
Well,
tailgate here.
That'd be great, yeah. But
and you have a
that's
nice
not going to
backyard
happen.
for it? No, do it. Pool, you got the
It's not going to happen. But anyway,
it could.
This could be the new happening place.
It could be. You never know. But anyway.
Then you could start charging admission for that.
A bad thing. The last thing I'm going to say about it is a bad thing has turned out to be a good thing for Knightline. Because now we have the way to do our post-game live show after every single game, and it'll be. And that's what we were trying to do, and I'm saving money, and I will put it into making this show better. Anyway, all right. Thank you for those of you that are still listening, because I'm sure that some people have shut this off by now. I appreciate every single one of you, and we do this for you, obviously, because we're not making any money, and that's not really what it's about. We wanted to give more information. That's what we're doing, and we're going to have a heck of a post-game show after every single game next year.
I mean, you talk about commitment to this. Just look at what we've accomplished over the last week. We had the extra with Nick Patty. Jason ran out to the Pro Bowl, was able to get Matt Prater. I stumbled upon Larry Brown at the SMU UCF game, the basketball coaching legend. I mean, we're really working.
Yeah.
You know?
I mean, people have no idea what we do to do this. I mean, it's like another job.
It really is another job.
It is a de facto commercial every week for UCF athletics.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, all right. I'm going to take a deep breath here. What else do we have going on?
Well, we've got Juan still coming.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Juan.
National Signing Day is on Wednesday.
Yeah.
Oh, boy.
Live for 2 hours. We will be taking your calls. So we'll be breaking down that signing class.
Well, should we hear from Juan?
Let's hear from Juan.
Okay.
Nightline's countdown to signing day coverage continues now with Juan Toribio, who covers the Knights and is all over recruiting on 24/7 Sports. Juan, thanks so much for stopping by Knightline.
Yeah, thanks for having me, guys. Anytime.
So, Juan, what are the big stories that are going on right now? It's Sunday night. I know there's been a lot of activity this week in the recruiting realm. What is going on that's like kind of the biggest story right now?
Yeah, well, the biggest story for UCF now, as it is for every school right now, is trying to finish out strong. UCF just had their last official visit weekend. They only had 3 kids visit this weekend, so they kept it pretty small. Most of their targets visited in season or the last couple of weeks, so it's not really a surprise that it was so small. But they're trying to find an offensive lineman. They're trying to find a couple of receivers to add to the class. So pretty much the focus now is just trying to add to the class. They've already lost whoever it was that they were going to lose. So now it's just a matter of adding a couple of pieces here and there.
At this point, how would you evaluate this class as it looks now going into signing day this coming Wednesday?
I think it's a pretty good class. I mean, if you just go by Twitter, it seems like the world's falling apart, but it's still the second. They're still ranked number 2 in the American Conference. There's a top 75 class. It's not that bad. The best 3 players are already on campus, which is it's huge. They're going to go through a spring practice. They're going to go through a full summer with the team. So they have a lot of talent on the team. They've lost a lot of talent. Some bigger schools have taken 5 or 6 of their guys in the last couple of weeks. That's really hurt them. But some of the guys that they've lost, I didn't think it was that big of a deal. The guys like Marvin Washington, obviously the quarterback position is a spot that's not really strong right now, but he wasn't necessarily going to be the answer for that either. So they've lost a lot, but they're still in a prime spot. They might even finish with the best class in the American Conference.
Really? So much was made of Victor Beach flipping to Purdue, as you mentioned earlier, the sky falling and the UCF fan base in revolt over Victor Beach flipping. How critical was his flip, and how does the offensive line recruiting look?
Yeah, well, the Marvin Washington wasn't that big of a deal, but the Victor Beach was a pretty big deal. He was one of the guys that recruited for this class for a while. He committed in the summer, and he was all UCF, all everything. And then just recruiting happened at some point, and he got curious, wanted to take another visit. Y'all know what happened with that. So that was a big loss for UCF. If there's one decommitment that's hurt him, it's probably that one, just because of the obvious need at offensive line. And now with him out of the picture, they brought in 2 offensive linemen this weekend, Desmond Besant from Cycles down in Tampa, and Brett Cottrell, which is offensive lineman from Nebraska. He recently decommitted from Minnesota. So he's the guy that they really want to try and get in this class. Besant is more of an evaluation type visit. He might somehow commit after signing day if they still have a spot left. But Brett Cottrell is really the guy that they want to bring in. Frost obviously has that Nebraska connection, so he's hoping to bring in another guy from Nebraska. That would be the guy that I think ends up in this class.
Hey, Juan, I know recently the NCAA allowed coaches to retweet and interact with athletes on Twitter. How has Twitter impacted this recruiting season?
Yeah, it's huge now. I mean, well, it helps a lot, just because, if a coach is retweeting a kid, more than likely they're going after him. There's a lot of things that go on Twitter that the kid might not necessarily be a top target. The coach retweeting it. If Frost retweets, he doesn't get on Twitter much. So if he retweets a kid or follows a kid, it's real. So it's definitely helped us out a lot. But at the same time, if a kid starts following, people from other schools, then people start panicking. And sometimes it's just they took a visit, they met a lot of people, and then they're just following him. So it's a little bit of both. It's helped us a lot just to figure out who's really a target, but it's also created a little bit of panic in terms of, people following other people and just keeping track of all that stuff.
So looking at the commitment list, who would you say is the number one guy that we absolutely have to sign on signing day, and who's the most important guy that's on this list?
Out of the commits right now?
Yes.
Daryl Mack, I would say, he's pretty big, the quarterback out of Virginia. He's a 6'3" guy. He body-wise, he looks the part. He still needs to work on his mechanics, throwing the ball a little bit, so he'll probably redshirt this year. But the 3 guys already on campus, Emmanuel Green, Otis Anderson, and Antoine Collier. I think those are the 3 best players in this class. Collier, the defensive back from Miami, and Emmanuel Green plays at IMG Academy. He's a wide receiver. Otis Anderson, running back from Jacksonville. Those 3 guys are going to play right away. And Emmanuel Green might just be the most dynamic receiver on the team right now. Just in terms of catching a quick screen and just making one guy miss and taking out away. So those are the type of guys Frost wants to get on board. So those are probably those 3 are already locked up. I'll probably say Daryl Mack, Zamari Maxwell, he just committed. So those are pretty much. But like I said, every commit right now is fully locked in. There's not going to be any drama of someone flipping at the end.
Emmanuel Green's kind of a little guy, a 5'9" receiver at 170 pounds. Is that any kind of a worry as far as his height? Because, a lot of wide receivers are starting to get taller and everything else. So
yeah, well, I mean, he's 5'9", might even be a little bit generous, to be honest. But he's just a dynamic kid. I mean, you just get the ball in his hands. He's the Charles Nelson of what Frost wants to do here at UCF. So they're not really looking at height. When you got Snelson and you got Traquan, you have the height. Now you're just kind of looking for a playmaker, and he's different than those guys. Like you said, height dominates college football at this time, but so does speed. And there's not many guys that are faster and quicker than Emmanuel Green.
We've seen it happening the last couple of weeks. A lot of USF commits flipped to Oregon because of Willie Taggart moving there. Has that impacted UCF recruiting at all, or is it more of a territorial thing? USF has their side, UCF has our territory of recruits.
I've been on the beat for a year, and so this is my second recruiting class now. And to me, it's crazy that they don't recruit against each other. You always you have the Miami and the FSU and the Florida of the world, and they're going after the same kids for the most part. But UCF and USF, they don't really go after kids. They have their own systems. They just have their own boards, I guess. UCF nabbed kids from Tampa. USF had 3 kids from Orlando before Tiger went to Oregon. So it's not, they really don't battle for these kids. You know, Tiger went to Oregon, now he's taking his kids. He took Bruce Johnson and a couple other guys. But I mean, that hire hasn't affected UCF at all. I mean, like I said, it's incredible how close they are and how little they actually battle for the same kids.
2 questions. Earlier you had said the boards are showing UCF second. Who do you have them, or who do the boards have behind them behind? That's question 1.
Yeah, Memphis is number 1 right now. I believe they have 24 commitments right now to UCF's 19. UCF is number 2 in American Conference, and they're also second in average per recruit. Memphis is a little bit lower. Number 1 on that list is Houston, and they're just barely above UCF. They just got a running back a couple of days ago that put them ahead. But if UCF kind of just locks on 2 or 3 more kids, which they should in the next couple of days, then I think by average they probably end up number 1. I don't know if they get to the top of the list, just because I don't know if they'll get the volume to get there, but that's who's on top right now.
Well, really too much emphasis is placed on the star rankings for these players. As you've looked at this class, how do you think it fits Scott Frost's vision for UCF fast and UCF fierce? He's recruiting players that fit his scheme, and that may not necessarily line up with the star rankings. Yeah,
well, on the defensive line, for example, you have a guy like Mason Charleroi, which he's from Pennsylvania, and he's 6'7", 6'8" kid on the defensive line, and he's a 2-star recruit, almost a 3-star. But that's exactly what Frost and Chenander want on the defensive line. They want these tall freaks. It's just they're quick, they're athletic, they can play basketball. Jeremiah Zile from Amarillo Academy, he's 6'7" too. So he's just getting people that fit. If the stars come with it, that's fine. T.J. Pitts, Kalia Davis, the 2 inside linebackers committed right now, 2 stars. But if you ask any of the coaches, those 2 guys they're extremely high on. So it's a matter of fit. He has to bring the kids in that fit his style. Offensive linemen is the same thing. So it's more of a fit thing right now. But I do think in a couple of years, you'll probably start looking 3 stars, trying to add a couple 4 stars. I mean, there's a lot of emphasis, but, for the most part, 4 stars, high 3 stars, they pan out a little bit more than a 2-star probably does.
All right, I'm going to throw kind of a random name out here, and I want you to tell me what you know about this guy. This guy is 6'6", 315 pounds. Speaking of height and weight, Julio Castillo, offensive lineman from Mayo, Florida. Do you know anything about him?
Yeah, well, he's interesting. A huge kid. I mean, I was 6'6", and that might not do it. I saw him on one of the games. He probably looked bigger than that, to be honest. But he's not on social media. He lays low. He's from a really small school. I mean, that's why I think he's a 2-star. He's not a 2-star in terms of his skill and his size. But when you come from a town like that, it's really hard for anyone to really go up and see him play too much. But he's going to contribute. He probably needs to add a couple more pounds. So a redshirt year is probably going to do him well. But he's a kid that they're huge on. Like I said, they want size on both sides of the lines. So he's a kid that's going to contribute for sure.
Let me ask you this question about what you do. Is this sort of like what it's like to be an accountant at tax time? Is this the busiest stretch for you? And how do you keep up with things throughout the day and in the days leading up to signing day?
Yeah, well, this is definitely the busiest time. You have the assignments that they give you, and then you have to follow up on kids visiting. You have to keep up with Twitter. You have to keep up with a lot of things. You got to be on top of it. All it takes is one day for it to switch. I mean, like Victor Beach, UCF, next day he's taking a Purdue visit, and you're kind of like, like when this happened. So you really got to follow it intensely and just kind of, like I said, follow up on the kids. If you hear something from a coach or another player or whatever, just follow up on it and just make sure that you're getting the right information. Because at this time, there's information accurate, not accurate. So you kind of have to weed out which is accurate.
How can people find you on social media?
Yeah, my Twitter is Juan C. Toribio. That's my personal one. And then the Nice 24/7's at Nice 24/7.
All right. Well, thank you very much for joining us. We really appreciate it.
No, anytime, man.
All right, we want to know what you think. We're going to be live 7 to 9 Eastern time. Now, what's this? This is live on
YouTube.
YouTube. We're going to be live on YouTube, taking phone calls, and we'll be promoting that on the message boards and all of our various social media channels. So join us, 7 to 9, taking calls, breaking down the class, talking about what went right, what went wrong, how the linemen look, and all of that good stuff.
I would like to say we would be doing this on Rabble.tv, but Rabble.tv has changed their entire thing, and they're in the works of coming out with a new product. So that product that we used to do live shows, post-game live and all that is not available right now, but we shall see if that post-game live show that we're going to do this year is going to be on Rabble or YouTube or Facebook or Twitter or it's
all
probably,
of them.
It's probably,
all of them.
I don't know about that. It's probably going to be on one of those. Anyway,
That's good.
Cameras
really
everywhere.
It'll be
I'd like to do
live.
that.
360.
It'll definitely be live.
It'll
yeah.
be live. Hey, did you catch Athlon Sports Magazine? I don't know if that's just an online thing now. It used to produce an actual magazine ranking Scott Frost third best first-year head coach. Did you see that?
Who was first?
Virginia Tech's Fuentes was one.
Justin.
Under Frost's direction, it's safe to say UCF is a program on the rise and one to watch over the next couple of years. The Knights' 6-game improvement in the win column tied for the most among FBS teams in 2016.
Is he related to Daisy Fuentes by chance? Remember Daisy Fuentes?
I don't remember Daisy.
I just
don't
thought
think
about
so.
that. I don't know.
I don't
The name Fuentes. I like that.
Additionally,
Fuentes.
all 7 defeats came at the hand of bowl teams from 2016, and 3 losses came by 7 points or fewer. It's funny when you read somebody else write it, and you realize how many of our fans just melt down for the wrong reasons.
Are you saying that? No.
Even though Frost was regarded for his work on offense, it was UCF's defense that led the way for the team last fall. The Knights limited opponents to 24.6 points per game. Boy, be challenged to do that again with all of the graduations. They ranked second in the AAC by holding opposing offenses to 4.8 yards per play. With another offseason for Frost to find the right answers on offense, UCF could be the Cal's biggest challenger in the AAC's East Division in 2017. I mean, that's overall pretty positive write-up.
Yeah, pretty good. So, Jason, tell us about your interview that you did earlier this week. You talked to a ton of people out there at the Pro Bowl. We put out your interview with Matt Prater.
Matt Prater.
Tell us about that.
Prater was my first interview. I mean, it was the first time I've ever talked to a professional player like that before. And it was great to have the UCF tie and just... He was walking away, and I said, "Hey, Matt, I'm with UCF Knightline podcast," and he's like, "Oh, sure, yeah." So we talked, but I was able to talk to Kirk Cousins, Dak Prescott, Drew Brees, Greg Olsen, just to name a few. I was
name
able to,
dropper.
yeah,
Name dropper.
I was able to, fun name drop right there. But I was able to talk to a lot of players. It's pretty amazing how accessible they are during when they're just having fun and goofing around like that at an event like that. And I think it's great for Orlando. When I talked to Drew Brees, he told me if it's not going to be in Hawaii, it should be in Orlando every year. And I think that's great for the city beautiful. I'm taller than Dak Prescott. Out of all the players I met...
How do you compare to Matt
Really?
Prater?
He's
Dak
short?
is a lot
How tall are
shorter.
you? What are you?
I'm about 6 foot, 5'11", 3/4.
Are you taller or shorter than Prater?
Oh, I'm a lot taller.
A lot taller than
A
Prater.
lot
Because I
taller.
noticed in that angle, it looked like he was a little lower than you.
The shortest guys I met was Matt and Darren Sproles. Darren is about 4 foot nothing. I took a photo of Jimmy Graham, Drew Brees, Drew's kids, and Darren Sproles, and it found its way on a Saints Report forum, and all the fans on the forum page were going, they might want to check out Drew's fourth son on the left there because it had his 3 kids and then Darren, and they were basically making fun of
Well,
they said, "Man, Drew's 5th son over there, he's ripped."
that's funny. Darren Sproles, I think I texted you. I went to high school in the same town as the Sproles, all of them. And all of them were incredible football players. I think I went to school with maybe his dad or his uncle, though. Anyway.
How about Prater making headlines, not for your interview, though very good, but for a 76-yard field goal?
Yeah, Justin Tucker hit a 75, and Matt came out and said, "I'll do you one better," and hit a 76. I think that's amazing.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
76.
That's cool.
And it was with the little mechanism holding the ball.
Still, that's
But
amazing.
Anyway.
That's
still,
pretty
that's
incredible.
awesome.
That's pretty crazy.
So, like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter, and subscribe to us on YouTube and however you get podcasts, because Andrew's releasing these things. Again, Nick Patty, Larry Brown, Matt Prater.
And the thing, people, there was some questions about what's the difference between Knightline Now and Knightline Extra. Extra is full interviews normally, and Now is like,
in the present day.
Quick little clips that are happening now. Sometimes we hope that those would be time relevant, something that has to be heard right then. It could be a rant from me or whatever.
No.
The first one, I believe, was a rant from me, but anyway.
Matt's was great because the night before he was at the SMU UCF game.
That's
a
cool.
lot of people didn't know about that, but it was his first time back on campus since.
I was surprised by that.
Yeah, it was his first time back on campus since 2005. He just said it was great to be back, and he was impressed. He was impressed with what Scott Frost was able to do. So he definitely is following along with UCF sports, even though he's not on campus for a while.
Yeah. Well, if he's following UCF sports, he knows men's basketball is reeling. Our Hoops insider, former UCF men's basketball player Isaac Lang, he's going to stop by, tell us what's wrong, help us understand it at least, and find out where UCF ranks for hottest college bodies. Stay with us.
Wow.
There are so many ways to connect with Knightline. You can like us on Facebook at Knightline Podcast or follow us on Twitter at UCF_Knightline. Check out our website at www.ucfnightlinepodcast.com for recruit spotlights, archived episodes, and more. Or, of course, you can always call us at 407-401-9184. That's 407-401-9184. Listen whenever and wherever you are on YouTube, SoundCloud, Stitcher, iTunes, or tune in. Go Knights and charge on!
Time to dig deeper into UCF men's basketball. Let's go inside the lane with Isaac Lang. All right, Isaac, thanks for joining us. How you doing?
I'm doing well. How are you?
Doing pretty good. Not so happy about UCF's loss on Saturday. 6-point lead with 6:37 left in the game. Tulsa goes on the 26-9 run. Am I left to conclude there may be some tired legs going on here for this team? Talk about this loss. What went wrong?
Oh, yeah, most definitely. Tired legs have definitely played a huge factor in this one. The guys, as of late, they had that lead. I really did think they were going to pull that one off. But tried and true, these turnovers are really just being our Achilles heel and once again costing us the game. If we rely on that ball more, then we definitely wouldn't have had those turnovers. But I honestly thought we were going to pull that one off, especially getting so late in the game with that lead like that. After playing so well, going back and forth, put on such a really good shooting display. During those turnovers, if we can just back off of those, we could definitely pull these nail biters out.
Well, you say that, and so does Coach Dawkins as well. We're halfway through the American slate, and it's a tough schedule of games. They go to Houston this week, Memphis back at home. It doesn't get any easier. Can they correct the turnover problem at this point in the season, or is this just something that they may have to deal with the rest of the way?
No, they can definitely still turn this around. Like I said, the biggest thing is with the death problem, they can't really simulate those games, the in-game action in practice, so they can value the ball more. But there's other ways to do so by taking it slow. Where I know one of the things where we used to do within our practices, even in the pro level, we would do 2-minute sessions or 3-minute sessions where we would have to have 0 turnovers within that time frame of competing back and forth or scrimmaging. And whichever team had the most turnovers, we would accumulate suicides or some type of punishment that we would have to have at the end of practice to help us really value that ball. But in doing so, it helps with conditioning as well. So you play these 2 to 3 minute spurts and just build off of those. Because it's late in the season, you don't want to do too many of those. In the beginning, you probably would have it at the 7-minute mark. But now, just to continue to try to bring those game situations in where one team is down, a certain amount of points, and you don't have, like I said, 2 to 3 minutes of play, and to simulate that within practice, that would do wonders if they're able to really focus in and actually take those habits from practice into game time, and vice versa, those habits from game time and try to focus them in on practice time.
Talk to us a little bit about travel. Tulsa is probably one of the farthest places that UCF has to go to within American Conference play. And because of the deal with the airport and direct flights, it can take them upwards of 8-9 hours and, flight changes and whatever to get there. What toll does that take on an athlete at the Division I level and then having to go out and play the game?
Oh, it takes a huge toll on you. It's just draining. It's draining with the traveling, the getting on the plane, the dealing with the pressure on the plane. A lot of guys don't understand that'll take your legs away from you. One of the key things I actually picked up playing professional ball, I would wear my compression tights while I'm flying. That would actually help alleviate a lot of the lactic acid that would build up within the flight. So that's one thing I know some teams do to try to help combat that. But those flights, it's just, like I said, you're sitting for such a long time getting stiff and then have to try to get rest. It's hard to sleep on a plane as it is. Then, come game time, you got to be geared up and kind of ready to lock it in and focus in on the game plan. Especially at the Division I level, everyone's ready to play you, especially in your own house. It's just something that you have to really mentally prepare for every game.
It sort of seems like about halfway through the season now and halfway through American Conference play that teams are sort of figuring out Tacko Fall, basically just double and triple teaming him, and he seems to be getting a little angry when he does get hit more than often. It's hard to officiate such a big player. How do you think the team can work on that and maybe draw plays up to get the ball away from him and give it back to him with B.J. Taylor?
Yes, I noticed that. It's only going to get worse as the conference play goes. The biggest thing I noticed, these teams are recognizing, we're keeping them in, especially defensively. That's where it's going to start at. Defensively, it's going to free him up offensively because, oddly enough, he's good at running the floor and filling those lanes, on trailing the play and, running to either ball screens and then you'll dive into the basket. But defensively, it's taking a toll on him where offensively he's not as effective. And the point is they're starting to draw him out of the paint more. Normally we had the 4 out and we just keep him in and camp him in that paint and distract, any type of layup that comes that way and just have our guards running a frenzy around the perimeter. But not having a lot of legs to sub in and out to replenish those tired legs, it's hard to do that. So either they're going to get wide open threes or it's going to draw Tacko out and making him move a lot more, and which is going to make him a lot more tired quicker. Offensively, we have to put him in more ball screens. I noticed he sets maybe 1 or 2 every 2 to 3 possessions. If we keep him engaged in every offensive play, that makes him accountable, and which he's going to have to be a threat regardless of what angle you see him at. First off, he's 7'6", so that alone, he's a threat. But when you keep him inside every play and every possession, every pick and roll, even a lot of back screen action where it's off the ball, where it's going to be he's a screener, and then the screener screens the screener. So it's forcing teams to have to actually switch. And once when the switch happens, then we have him at our mercy. But then they're figuring out the double team. A biggest thing I noticed, yes, he does get frustrated a lot. And, it's hard for the refs to actually make those calls because they see him so big. I can tell they don't want to make those calls. But, a foul is a foul. But at the end of the day, he's got to keep his composure, realize the double team's coming, and either spin away from the double team and attack the basket or kick it right back out and then repost again. But him catching it and sitting on the ball and waiting and trying to let things develop, are us just sitting and watching him and seeing what he's going to do is just going to be a detriment to him and our offensive play.
B.J. Taylor with 23 points in this last game. Talk about how a healthy B.J. Taylor is important to this team.
A healthy B.J. Taylor is just as important as it is for basketball to play a game. I like to call him the glue guy. He's the glue guy, no doubt about that. He does all the little intangibles to keep this team together. And whether or not, if it's defensively, if it's offensively, if it's getting guys involved, if it's him scoring, he finds a knack to just do it, and no questions asked. That's something about his game I really, really love. It was hard to see what he was going to adapt to at this level. He's not that tall. He has a good size frame on him, but a lot of guys aren't, over that 6'1", 6 foot mark, 6'2" mark. It's hard to have a really big impact on the game. But he uses athleticism very well. He finishes around the basket And if he's able to understand to pick and choose where and when to be that offensive threat and when to keep guys involved, that's honestly when we're clicking in all cylinders. And like I said, with him finishing around the basket, that's just an extra plus. And then Taco is, Captain Cleanup. So if we can keep him healthy, and he's just going to get better and better, especially with his play. He's only played he hasn't played a lot of games this year, and he's been doing extremely well. And I only can imagine him getting any better. So if we can really keep him on the floor, keep him engaged in every play, because I notice he does get tired because he is, like I said, the glue guy. He's doing every single thing to help the team in every facet of the game. So a healthy B.J. Taylor is the most important thing to this team, honestly. I feel like even more so than Taco, because a lot of things that Taco gets going offensively is off of B.J.'s attacks or B.J.'s shot or whatever he's able to do to get other guys involved on the opposite side of the court, where he can then come on that backside and either get those offside rebounds or I saw one play he was catching a lot of lobs in certain games. So it's just like he takes up one half of the basket, and if the other guys are able to cut that court in half and utilize that half, it's just something that BJ has to really, really focus on. And like I said, pick and choose throughout the game and know when to go, when not to go, when to keep that ball in his hands, because at the end of the day, he's a point guard. He runs the show. He's got to help this team keep these turnovers down.
Well, let's go back to two topics, turnovers and Taco Fall. It's been frustrating to watch. He's the biggest guy on the court, yet UCF seems to over and over again have trouble just tossing him the ball. What is the challenge there? That's something they work on in practice, but he's the biggest guy. Just get it to him.
Exactly. I hate saying it, but it's got to be something that in practice they have to actually practice feeding him the ball that way. I notice BJ does it very well, so it seems like he probably in practice he's probably doing it the most. But again, you don't have another five to really go against to simulate those tough games that we've been playing. So it's easier to lob it over a defense that's not as effective as what you're playing against every night. So you're not going to really understand how to do it. So that's when the coaching staff's got to get creative, and they've got to find ways to really get those guys to simulate what's going on in the game, or actually watching game film to see what they're doing, what they're not doing, because at the end of the day, he is the biggest thing on the court. And if you see him, sealing off, or even a halfway seal, you got to get that ball up there, because at the end of the day, either he's going to catch it or they're going to foul, one or the other.
Well, I love the development that he's had year to year. Jason earlier said something about him being angry the way he's being double and triple teamed, and I thought, yeah, but I'm not seeing enough physicality out of him. I want him to be even tougher in those situations. That's something that he can grow into, don't you think, from year 2 to 3, being even more physical when he's facing those sorts of situations?
Yes, but that's all mental. That's when we have the issue of the young mind. The young mind is going to react mentally more than physically. They're going to show it emotionally. They're going to express themselves vocally more, instead of taking it out physically on the court or applying it to his game, which then that's him focusing his energy the right way. But that's only going to come with time. And he's, like I said, he's over the years, he's come a long way. And honestly, he's going to have to just play more games, watch more film, study the game, study himself, study other guys similar to him to see how they utilize their frustrations. Because him, expressing it in a more vocal, angry way, or in a way that's going to be a detriment to the team, where he's going to fumble the ball or do something out of character, it's just going to hurt him more.
So, Isaac, thank you very much for your insight. We greatly appreciate you being on with us each week and giving us all this information. Thank you very much.
No problem. Loved it.
Up next for UCF, they're right back at it. Going to Houston February 1 before returning home to face Memphis Saturday, February 4, 5 o'clock, CFE Arena, tailgating on Memory Mall before the game with the Tigers. Taking a look around the American makes me very happy this Sunday to tell you that number 19 Cincinnati crushed the Cows 94-53. Holy moly, 41 points.
Wow.
Cincinnati tops in the American. They're pretty good, 8-0. We're going to play them coming up soon. SMU just to beat off at 8-1. Tulsa 6-2, Memphis 6-3, Houston 6-4. You notice, by the way, UCF no longer in that top cluster there. UCF 5-4, now tied with UConn. That's come on a little bit of late. Taking a look at your Knightline planner, women's golf hits the links for the Florida Challenge in Lecanto, Florida, January 30th. Then they take part in the UCF Challenge at Orlando's Eagle Creek Golf Course Sunday, February 5. Florida A&M visits women's tennis Friday, February 3 at 3 o'clock. Georgia Southern visits Sunday, February 5 at high noon. Both matches at the new USTA complex in Lake Nona. And then women's hoops back on the road at SMU, February 4.
You did that so quickly that you should do some of those infomercials at the end where they throw all the stuff in, like in...
Well, I was trying to make up for the time devoted to your rants.
Yeah, well, sorry.
Earlier
it was necessary. All right, news and notes coming up. And now, news and notes from the world of UCF sports. Women's basketball fell 65-59 at Memphis on Saturday, which followed a 66-44 victory over Cincinnati midweek. The Knights are 3-5 in the American, and at the halfway point in the league schedule, they are 13-8 overall.
Women's tennis, they swept Bethune-Cookman Sunday. That was a rescheduled game from bad weather the week before. They also beat Stetson Saturday. UCF now 4-1 on the new season.
Women's track collects 7 top 10 finishes Friday, another 8 top 10 finishes Saturday during the Bob Pollock Invitational at Clemson. Meantime, redshirt senior Anne-Marie Blaney sets the UCF record in the mile, and Miss Blaney does so after earning back-to-back Female Track Athlete of the Week recognition from the American.
She's pretty fast. Men's tennis with a sweep Sunday in its rescheduled match with Bethune-Cookman. Knights moved to 4-1 there as well.
Congratulations to a legend from men's basketball. Bo Clark, son of Torchy, announced his retirement after coaching at Flagler for 31 years. Clark, a UCF Hall of Famer, remains the Knights' career scoring leader.
That's awesome. Volleyball welcomes Aaron Olson. The freshman has transferred in from Bradley.
Welcome back former Knight Kaylee Novak, who joins the softball staff as a volunteer assistant head coach.
Pitchers, catchers, the rest of the Knights back as baseball holds its first official team practice and scrimmage of 2017.
UCF alums Ricky and Jordan Taylor, along with Max Angeletti and Jeff Gordon, get the win Sunday for Wayne Taylor Racing in their Cadillac prototype at the Rolex 24 at the Daytona International Speedway.
You know, they don't get enough coverage, really.
Absolutely
they're
awesome.
UCF alums.
That whole thing out there, the 24 hours, is absolutely an awesome spectacle.
We don't get to do this very often. Hockey, UCF hockey, they tied the Gators 4-4 out at the Amway in Orlando following the Solar Bears game Sunday.
And finally, Maxim Magazine is out with its list of hottest student bodies. UCF checks in at number 6.
Thanks to me.
Going to have to do a little more research on this topic.
So does that, like, an average of 6?
No,
they're
no,
ranked.
I know. I'm just
I
saying.
saw some of the coverage there on their website. And it's going to require a little bit more research.
Yeah, absolutely.
I agree.
All right, this has been episode 96 of the Knightline Podcast. I'm Andrew Phegley.
He's
Jason the Intern.
I'm Trace Trylko. Rise and conquer. Go Knights.
Charge on.
UCF, charge on to the field. With our spirits, we'll never yield. Black and gold charge right through the